Why are you wearing a bow tie with a t-shirt?
Meet my buddy Scott. He has a fantastic team and you're gonna love what they created. Check this out.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the shop. It's really good to see you. Bow ties, despite what Karen says, is cool.
That's right, bow ties are cool. You're the man, Scott. Hey, I appreciate you guys sending in this video. I gotta showcase what you created. Guys, if you wanna see the entire video, go check out the Crafty Wiener on YouTube. Scott and his team create beyond amazing. Stay tuned, enjoy the video.
We're gonna show you how we made our version of the thin red line flag.
It's gonna be awesome.
Let's get started.
Time to do final sanding. I went through all the grits, went from 80 up to 120, 150, and took it all the way up to 220. You don't necessarily need to take it to 220 because we're going to be painting it. I just kind of wanted to do that. Use the random orbit sander. I rounded off all the edges. Again, you can do that by hand as well with a regular sanding block, or you can even run it with a trim router if you want. Once everything was sanded to 220, we took it back over to the bench and we grabbed some black paint primer. Any primer is going to do. You can get it at your big box store, and we just used a foam roller to roll it on there. And what that does is that acts as, number one, a sealer of the wood because we are using epoxy, but at the same time it gets added depth. We are going to be coloring the epoxy, but we wanted that black background to almost be like a black canvas for us to start on. For this project, we're using Stone Coat Countertops Art Coat Epoxy. It's a 1-to-1 mix. What we like about it is it's got proper UV protection. While this is an interior project, a little UV protection isn't going to hurt. We're using dark red metallic, we're using yellow gold metallic, and black metallic as our dye choices. The most exciting part of this project was my daughter Samantha. This was kind of her training into the resin world, and really excited to have her in the shop. She mixed it on a 1-to-1 ratio, and we did it at 3 ounces per square foot, which meant that based on this, it was roughly 18 to 20 ounces. We made sure to mix parts A and B very, very well, a minimum of 2 minutes. I think we went a total of 4 minutes. We hand mixed it. You can drill mix this using a paddle drill, but we didn't want to introduce too much air. We went ahead and we mixed it, and then we started dividing it into the separate cups that we were going to use for the project. The goal was to kind of make this look like the flag was on fire, thus the color choices that we had. We broke it out into 3 separate cups. Obviously, black as being the primary color had the majority of the resin that we were going to be working with, and then we had a small amount for yellow and a small amount of red. Since the product was already mixed, all we had to make sure is that we were breaking down the mica powder so that there was no clumps left. So we just hand stirred that for 30-45 seconds, making sure that everything was mixed properly. Then the fun starts. And when I say it that way, I really mean it. This is where the artist in you really can come out, because there's really no wrong way to do this. Once we were fully satisfied with the color and the way we mixed it, we just went ahead and poured it out. Using an 1/8-inch trowel, we troweled the product all the way across the board, smoothing, starting in the center and going to the outside. I honestly love those trowel marks. It's just so satisfying to watch. Once we got it to the outside, we let it naturally flow over the edges, and then we used a gloved hand and we messed everything up. You can use a basting brush for this or a chop brush. This isn't a very big project, so we just used our hands and we made sure to cover the edges and the outside with as much black resin as we could get. Once it was fully laid out, we then took a heat gun and we removed all the bubbles. This is pass number 1, because you're going to do at least 3 passes with the torch or a heat gun to remove bubbles. Once we used our hands to remove the trowel lines and give it that final mixing and stir up the metallic mica powder, we went ahead and it was time to start laying in the red and yellow lines. There is no wrong way to do this. So Karen and Samantha grabbed some craft sticks and they grabbed the red and yellow cups and they just started tracing out lines. At first we were saying, oh, we need some here, we need some there, and we wanted to make it look balanced. And after a while we're like, you know what, screw it. Let's just put it everywhere. The goal for this would actually try and make it look like fractured granite. You see me standing there with my hands in my pocket because they don't ever let me touch the artsy stuff. But once we had the lines laid out and we had them highlighted the way we wanted, we would then go back with the heat gun, and we used the heat gun to actually meld that red and yellow together, almost to create a flame-like effect. Just be you. Bring out that artist in you and do it. Afterwards, and we had everything the way we wanted it, we then used the heat gun to make sure we got rid of all the bubbles. I took a sanding block with 220 grit sandpaper. Basically, what we want to do is we want to create a mechanical bond for the spray paint and the resin going forward. Just light passing, we knock down some of the little nubs, little those dust bunnies that get in the resin. Don't really go hard here, but just make sure that you're careful on those edges. You don't want to eat through the resin that's actually on the round over. After that, we came in with some denatured alcohol on a rag and we just wiped it down. We basically wanted to make sure that we were getting all the dust off. Next came up was union placement. And I have to be honest, it took us so long to decide which side the union was supposed to go on. Then it was time to lay out the stripes, and it took us 3 to 4 different tries till we finally came up with the idea of marking the spacing with an X-Acto knife. And then we were able to pull painter's tape based on the marks. These stripes are actually 1.5 inches thick, and we laid them all out. Now, the eagle-eyed people will see we made a mistake there with the union, which required us to redo the flag. We'll discuss that later. But since we thought we were doing it right, we grabbed a can of just standard Rust-Oleum metallic silver paint and we dusted. I think it took us about 5 coats to do the whole thing. We just kept doing light sprays coat over coat, and we let it set up and dry about 5 minutes between each coat until we were absolutely sure that we got proper coverage. Again, this is an artistic thing. You can decide exactly how much silver you want to show. Do you want to be translucent? Do you want to be fully opaque? Do you want something in the middle? There's really no wrong answer when it comes to this. For us, though, we wanted to go as opaque as possible, maybe with a little hint of the black coming through, but again, let your inner artist speak to you. And the reveal. We went ahead and we pulled the tape off after we let the paint set up for about 30 minutes. And talk about super excited. With a little trepidation because we weren't sure that we weren't going to peel paint off with it. But as the stripe started coming off and the union came off and we saw this perfectly amazing, perfect straight lines, not going to lie, we may have done a little bit of a happy dance. Next up was sealing the spray paint stars and stripes into the flag and the entire design. For that, we used Art Coat. Again, we used 3 ounces per square foot. 18 to 20 ounces, but instead of using the trowel this time, we used a foam roller to just kind of move things around. We certainly did not want to take a trowel, an 1/8 inch trowel, and mark up that spray paint, so we just dragged everything around, starting in the middle and working ourselves to the outside and just let it naturally go. And once we were done spreading everything, we went back to a heat gun or a torch to get that nice gloss finish. Just make sure that you're steering clear of the resin. You don't want to overheat the spray paint. Trust us on this. You know what? That's just a story for a different day. To get the drips off the bottom, it's pretty simple. Grab your random orbit sander, some 60 or 40 grit, and go back and forth, light passes at first, working until you get all of the resin off, then working yourself up back to 150 grit. After that, it's just your finish of choice. We went ahead with polyacrylic. It's easy. There's 0 VOC. It's just a polyurethane. We just want to make sure you have to seal the bottom. That is a requirement because if you don't seal the bottom, then the flag could actually cup on you. Once the polyurethane actually set up, we decided to go with a French cleat. French cleat for something of this weight is a really simple thing to do, and you know you can keep it level. Grab some poplar, cut it at a 45-degree angle, and then made sure painstakingly that it was 1 inch off of the top on either side, and then grabbed my brad nailer using some brad nails and went ahead and nailed it in place using 5/8 inch brads. You'll notice I go back and forth at almost like a 25 to 40 degree angle. That helps lock it in place, almost like a clamp. When all said and done, it's the glue that's holding this French cleat on. I'm using the brads as just an extra safety factor and, again, frankly, as a clamp. Once I was done with the brads, I wiped the glue off and she's good to go. And we could not be happier with how this turned out. In the beginning, we started this project thinking that we were going to do a thin red line flag and try and marbleize it. And as the art started to speak to us and the resin was speaking to us, between using the heat gun to move things around and a little bit of gravity by tilting, it started looking like it was actually on fire. And that just spoke to us and we went with it. And we are so happy with the way this came out. Let's talk about where we messed up so you don't make the same mistakes. MDF versus hardwood. MDF by nature does not trap air, it does trap water.
Scott and his team did fantastic on this project. Thank you again for your service in being a first responder. I appreciate you guys. Hey, if you want to see the entirety of this video, go check out the Crafty Wiener on YouTube. Scott is an absolute awesome creator. Thank you again for sharing your content with us and your personalities. I really appreciate it. All right, guys, until next time from Stone Coat Countertops, remember, you got this. I'll see you on the next video. Oh, and I almost forgot. Hey, Karen, I think you got the hardest job of all. Keep that guy in line, keep him on time, and keep those projects coming. Guys, you can subscribe to Scott by clicking the link in our description. We'll see you there. Scott, you guys definitely got this.